Hey guys, in lots of other videos or podcasts that we've done, we've talked a lot about using different types of muscle contractions to get the most out of your workouts. So we have concentric contractions, which is your muscle shortening as you contract it, and the most common way that people think about a contracting muscle. But we also have eccentric contractions, which is the muscle lengthening as you're trying to contract it, and isometric contractions, which are when your muscles stay the same length and under load the whole time. By using these different types of contractions and changing the tempo can really add a lot of variety and help you break through plateaus and get better results in your workouts. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is putting all these different muscle contractions together so that you can get the most out of your workouts. When you first start doing an exercise program, you can pretty much do anything and your body will adapt to it. So today we're going to look through repetitions and technique through the lens of a beginner using the bicep curl to demonstrate all of the points I'm trying to make. Hey guys, so here we are set up for our bicep curl. So a bicep curl is usually done by doing repetitions. To perform a repetition, we have a start point with a dumbbell at our sides, a midpoint with the dumbbells by our shoulders, and then an end point with the dumbbells down at our sides again. So for the bicep curl, the start point and the end point are the same. They won't always be for more complicated exercises, but as a beginner or someone who's just learning to exercise and learning the movement patterns, I always recommend that you start by doing exercises that have the same start point and end point because they tend to be simpler and there's a very clear pattern of movement to do, and we should be keeping it as simple as possible when you're first starting out. Okay, so one of the things that you really need to look at when you're lifting is tempo. Now, if you were an advanced lifter or someone who's been lifting for a really long time, you might pay attention to the amount of time it takes for you to lift the weight up, the amount of time you pause at the top, the amount of time it takes for you to lower the weight, and then the amount of time you take in between each repetition before doing others. But as a beginner, you really just need to pay attention to the weight or the speed that you lift the weight up and the speed at which you lower it. So what we're going to do over the next series of little mini snippets is actually show you what speed or what tempo you're lifting at will give you the outcome that you're looking for. So there are 4 reasons that you would really want to strength train: to obviously become stronger, to build your explosiveness, to build your muscular endurance, or to build hypertrophy, or to make your muscles actually bigger. So regardless of the way you train, becoming stronger is always a byproduct of any of the other types of training because you build strength by taking your muscles to failure and by changing your neural adaptations. So strength is always a byproduct no matter what you're doing. So really, when we're talking about eccentric and concentric contractions, we're talking about hypertrophy and explosiveness. So over the next little portion of this video, we're going to talk specifically about those 2 things. So the first thing we're going to cover is hypertrophy, which is making your muscles bigger. So in order to make your muscles bigger, we need to break those muscle fibers down as much as possible. This means keeping your time under tension really high, so the amount of time you're doing the lift for needs to be extended. This means lifting more slowly. So if we go back to our bicep curl and we start with our arms fully extended, this means taking 2 to 4 seconds on the way up and then 3 to even 6 seconds on the way down, so that we're going as slowly as possible. And by keeping that tension, the time under tension, really high, we're really breaking those muscle fibers down and allowing them to grow. And obviously we do as many repetitions as we can at that really slow tempo. So now we're going to cover explosiveness. Explosiveness is quite a bit different from hypertrophy in that we're actually going to try to decrease the amount of time that you do a concentric contraction instead of increasing the amount of time. So an explosive lift would actually look like this, okay? Where we're going very quickly, so less than a second on the way up, and then 1 to 2 seconds on the way down. On the way down, we're just trying to stay in control, so we don't want to get out of control because being out of control leads to injuries. So what's really good about explosive lifting is that it's actually also a very good way to build strength. A lot of strength comes from the signal our brain sends our muscles, and then our muscles' ability to contract and turn that signal into raw power. And by lifting a heavy load as quickly as you can, it forces your muscle to adapt and really use your brain's signal to lift as much weight as possible. So the last type of contraction that we'll talk about today is the isometric contraction. So again, the isometric contraction is where your muscle doesn't actually change length. So it could be up here or here or here if we're doing the bicep curl. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're under resistance and you actually have to work against the weight to hold it in the same spot. So researchers found isometric contraction to be a very effective way for people that were rehabbing or in a cast and had a limb immobilized, flexing a muscle for 3 to 5 seconds, 15 times, 3 times a day or so. And they actually significantly decreased the amount of muscle that they lost. So they were able to maintain a lot of muscle mass. But another way that you can use isometric training to make yourself stronger is to actually use it to break through the plateau of another type of lift. So often what happens is when you start to get tired, or if you're trying to lift explosively and you're at your maximum amount of weight already, there's actually a point where your movement starts to break down and you're not able to get through a specific joint angle. So let's say for a bicep curl, for the sake of this video, we'll just use one arm, and I can do maybe 4 bicep curls just like this from all the way down to all the way up. But at this point, it becomes like a sticking point and I can't actually break through it. So I can get the lift started, but here I can't go any further. What I can do instead is to take this bar and maintain this joint angle and actually push against a rack or a bench that's weighted down, and to do this contraction as hard as I can for 3 to 5 seconds, maybe 8 to 10 repetitions. And by doing that over time, it actually makes the muscle stronger at this very specific joint angle, which allows you to break through a plateau. So if you spend a couple of days doing this exact exercise at this joint angle where your muscle is the weakest, your body will adapt and you'll get stronger and actually be able to do your other types of lifts by using this isometric contraction. It's a very effective way to build strength and often underutilized, so I highly recommend that you use it to get stronger moving forward. Another thing you would use isometric training for is to build muscular endurance. Now this is especially important when you're training your core muscles, so doing front planks or side planks, because those core muscles stabilize your spine and you have to use those muscles all day to stabilize your spine because you're constantly moving or holding very static positions. So that's why I recommend isometric training, or the avenue that I recommend to use isometric training for core exercises very specifically. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment box below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Take care, and we'll talk to you next time.